And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon, and congratulations to the Gamecocks, national champions last night for the second time ever. What a night for the women of Carolina. Thank you for joining us, JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice and driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Today also brought to you in part by our friends at I Help Consulting. Ask yourself, how can I help you save thousands of dollars, some of you, in your business by just going to ihelpconsulting.com. It is very easy. We'll tell you more about it here in just a little while. More about us, follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. Make sure you've downloaded the app. Make sure that you're chiming in on the Share Healthcare chat lines, and you can be a part of our program today, which is jam-packed as it should be. There's a national championship game to be played tonight between North Carolina and Kansas. On the men's side of basketball things, Carolina whipped UConn to take care of that on the ladies' side last night. Mike Uva will join us at 12:30 to talk about it. At 1:05 today, Scott Wingo will join us in his weekly appearance for baseball. Gamecocks dropped 2 of 3 at Missouri. And then Gene Sapakoff at 1:30 today. It's also Masters Week. Is he there yet, Darren?
Oh, yeah. He played 9 holes yesterday. He played the back 9 yesterday. He's very much there.
This is
and looking good by all reports.
That is going to be fantastic. So we'll get a report from Augusta. You may have heard something else about Augusta. A guy named Tiger could be prowling come Thursday. So we'll get an update on that if Gene has one. Looks likely at this point in time. We'll also talk to him about South Carolina winning the national championship and much, much more. You pretty much know where we're going to be today with what is going on in the sports landscape, Darren. But I tell you, for anybody that watched the game last night, there is not any argument today about who the best team in women's college basketball is. It is South Carolina. They were the best team to start the season. They were the best team all year long, and they finished as the best team. They came out and they punched UConn in the mouth, and UConn can never recover. They made a couple of runs, but it was quote-unquote destiny for South Carolina. Their guard led them to victory, and Carolina has done it again. It was magnificent.
Dawn Staley becomes the first African-American head coach, men or women, with multiple national titles. She is one of 6 women's basketball head coaches now with at least 2 national titles. The game, it wasn't even exciting. It was a blowout from the start. It was 2 mismatched teams. South Carolina dominated that game from start to finish. You could get a sense that Gino Auriemma knew that this was possible before the game. Yeah. Then throughout the game, it was pretty clear with his mannerisms on the bench, with his conversations with Holly Rowe. It was pretty obvious they needed to rebound the ball. They couldn't. They got slaughtered on the glass. Destiny couldn't miss. Ooh. And it was a complete and total mismatch. I went to bed in the fourth quarter. It was over. So congratulations to the Gamecocks. It was the best team all year. 14-0 against ranked opponents. That's pretty impressive. That's an all-time record for South Carolina. School record. 35 wins as well. And before we get too far into this, I do want to just give one shout out to the Credit One Charleston Open.
Yes.
The new stadium is fabulous. It is first class inside and out. It is unbelievable. And the family had an incredible time on the grounds and touring the stadium and all that stuff yesterday. Get out to Daniel Island this week. There's going to be a couple of good weather days. Do it, because it is complete. It's a different place.
Yeah, and in addition to you saying that, what else says it is the lineup of musical acts that they have coming over the next few months. Kenny Chesney, Dave Matthews, Fish, Miranda Lambert. I mean, these are the biggest names in the industry, and they're all coming to a place that only seats 11,000. They could sell out 111,000, many of them, but they're going to be here in the Low Country. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's a wonderful event. It was Charleston. If you tried to travel around the Low Country this weekend, good luck with that. It was pretty tight with the bridge run. I know you called the bridge run and all those type things. It was a wild weekend. Somerville, the Flower Town Festival. They had the Cajun Festival. You can't do it all. You got to pick one or two. You're right, Darren. The Gino Auriemma pretty much gave it away what he was thinking, and what he was thinking was, in my opinion, and I mentioned this last night to Carrie when we were watching the game, there ain't no way we're going to win this thing. You could just see it. And I mean, here was like, this isn't my fandom. I hope it's not misconstrued for that. I mean, I was just watching the basketball game, clearly excited as a fan of South Carolina, but also just looking at it from a basketball standpoint. There was nothing that South Carolina didn't control. I mean, nothing. There got to a point where, and I say this, with so much respect, because Paige Beckers is really good.
Yeah.
I mean, she gets an inch and she takes a shot and she hits generally. I mean, I know she was only 6 of 13, if you want to call it only, just shy of 50%. That, by the way, is really good from the floor. And some of those shots she was just kind of firing up out of desperation. But it got to a point where there were times when the ball got down the court, Darren, and she was like, I'm just not going to give it up, because nobody knows what to do with the ball when they have it in their hands. And I'm just going to do what I can do to try to bring this team back. And it happened a couple of times. And then it couldn't anymore. Destiny Henderson's stat line is what is anybody that just watched the game: 26 points in a national championship, 3 of 6 from long range, 9 of 20 from the floor, 3 steals, 4 assists. She had a couple of boards, only 2 turnovers. Like, that's what everybody's going to look at. And that's great, because they don't win it without 26 points from Destiny Henderson. But Destiny Henderson, in my opinion, and I have not, let me be clear here, in no way, shape, or form have I watched most, or anything like that of women's basketball games this season across the country, okay? But I'll bet you would be hard-pressed to find a better individual defensive performance all year long than what she did last night against Paige Beckers. I mean, she was glue on everywhere Paige Beckers went. She was there. And any shot she hit, she deserves credit, a ton of it, because Destiny Henderson turned in the defensive performance of the year. I mean, that was outstanding. And then she runs down to the other side of the floor and hops 26 points into the bucket, outscores Beckers by 12. She was the better player. She was the best player in the game. It was an unbelievable defensive performance by the whole team, but keyed by that player.
So, yeah, it was a great defensive performance, but I saw it more as a team thing, because while Destiny was blanketing Paige, she was also funneling Beckers into the heart of the defense.
Yeah.
So whenever Beckers was able to get the ball, that's why what you just said, she didn't want to give it up, because whenever she would get it on a curl or on any type of movement, the movement of the offense and the subsequent defensive adjustments, you could see it happening real time. When she would get the ball, she was funneled into a spot that made it very hard to succeed in that spot. So South Carolina, did they take Beckers out? You're not going to take her out of the game, but they threw her off of her game, because everything she did, she had to work for and work immensely hard for, because she was in uncomfortable positions. So that allowed Aaliyah Boston to focus on, hey, you know what? Let me just control the paint here, completely control the paint, her and the depth behind her. And then if Destiny is doing what she's doing, we have a comment already in the Share Healthcare chat line about maybe the game's a different game if she hadn't broken out. Adam Bush said that. That's possible. But that was certainly part of what happened, because then Aaliyah Boston didn't have to do as much. They pointed out when she got an early breather in the first quarter that's earlier than Dawn would typically like to take her out. So the way the game started and then just continued throughout, there was a brief run in the second quarter when Beckers was able and UConn was able to dictate a little bit of tempo, and that's when they closed the gap a little bit. But that's it. Halftime came and went, and the Gamecocks came right back out, and it was the same as the beginning of the game. It was a dominant performance.
Oh, dominant. Absolutely. 49 points on the board for UConn. They lost by 15. If South Carolina would have just hit their free throws, they would have beat them by more than 20 in a national championship game, which is outrageous, if you ask me. I mean, I don't know how else to describe that. I mean, Carolina didn't shoot it particularly well from the floor. They did kind of just throw up some shots towards the end of the game that probably affected some of the stats. But, overall for a while, they were mostly pretty efficient and the game was in hand. But none of that matters. What matters is South Carolina is 35-2 and they're national champions. And, we've all turned the page, rightfully so, to the off-court discussions about what does this mean? What does this mean for Dawn? What does this mean for the program itself? All these records, all these accolades that are now being mentioned. The sport, I think, has now turned to a new quote unquote dynasty. I mean, look, UConn will always be the benchmark until they're not, and it's going to be a long time until they're not. They've won 11 national championships under Gino Auriemma, but since 2017 they haven't won any, and the Gamecocks have won 2. And they probably, I mean, you can't say this because you don't know, but they were the leaders in the clubhouse to win 3 had COVID not shut 2020 down. That's why they hung the banner consensus number 1, because there was nobody that was touching them in 2020 at that point in time. Again, they didn't play, so we don't know. But it's this is South Carolina's sport right now, and it's not just because they won last night. It's what they've done largely since 2015. But mostly since 2017 when they won their first one, Darren. And I know that people will argue the history of Tennessee and Gino Auriemma's UConn program, and I agree. There's an argument to be made there, but that's all in the past. The recent history is owned by the Gamecocks, and they ain't going anywhere. I mean, they're loaded.
They're the current king of the mountain. There's no question. When we had Debbie Antonelli on, she did point out that next year UConn's going to be scary, scary good, but they will be chasing South Carolina. That will be the mindset of the national scope of women's college basketball, will be who can take down South Carolina. Will it be UConn? Will it be anyone else? Or can anybody do it? Because that's where the sport is right now. And credit to South Carolina, because there's a lot of heat. I don't know. You can make your own opinion on deserved or not, for coaches, for how you pay coaches, for how you scale some of the assistants, especially currently. Dawn Staley's the second highest paid coach in women's basketball, and she is delivering as though she's the second or first highest paid coach in women's basketball. They made a commitment to her on the national level scale, and they're paying that commitment off. She is paying that commitment off.
Yeah, she is. And, so there's been, I was talking to somebody about this morning, Darren, and this is just food for thought. This is a great bar banter type conversation to be had. You got Easter coming up, so when your family gets together, this will be something fun to discuss it. If you're a Carolina fan, if you're not a Carolina fan, so over the last few years, because of what Dawn has accomplished at South Carolina, there have been multiple spinoff conversations, and she has even flirted with. She's interviewed with the Portland Trailblazers.
Yep.
As to whether Dawn should move on to the NBA or the WNBA. I don't know that Dawn would consider leaving the Gamecocks for another program in college basketball. I don't see the point in that, and I don't think she does either. But doing something else that's never maybe been done before, like coaching in the NBA. So and as time goes on, Darren, we're about to hit the off season. The NBA in the next 6 months will wrap up their regular season. And then the next day they'll start the next season. That's how the NBA works. It never ends for whatever reason. I'm just being facetious. So we're going to hear this again, right? It should Dawn Staley be considered. We just heard it in the search for South Carolina's men's coach before they hired Lamont Paris. There's some people out there. Should Dawn Staley coach the men? I'm seeing this differently now. I think now that Dawn has won 2, I think the conversation is more about, can she be the best ever in women's college basketball and in college basketball in general, and can she do it here? Like, I don't know this. I mean, I've met Dawn multiple times. She's super, but we've never talked about what her aspirations are or anything like that for what she wants out of her career. But now that she's won 2 and she's set up to win multiple more, they have the number 1 class in the country again. The number 1 player in the country is coming to Carolina. Everybody's coming back, basically. I mean, this is unbelievable. Like, isn't the conversation, instead of what could she go accomplish somewhere else, what other barriers could she break through? Maybe now it's shifting towards more of, could South Carolina eventually be the greatest women's basketball program ever? Like, in 15 or 20 years, could it overtake UConn? Could it overtake Tennessee all time? Not just now, but all time, if Dawn Staley stays at the helm? It's food for thought. I mean, it's worth talking about now.
Can it be if Dawn Staley stays at the helm? It can be in the conversation, but I don't see Dawn Staley as a South Carolina head coach for 15 years. Because she is such an impactful, powerful personality, and she relishes the role that she holds in both society and on the sidelines. She can build I think it's fair to say she has begun. I don't know if it's a dynasty yet, but the foundation's certainly there. I mean, they're trending towards a dynasty, but I don't know if anyone, Dawn Staley or anyone, stays around at that point long enough to match what Gino did or to match what Pat Summitt did, because I don't know what Dawn Staley wants. So it's almost 2 different conversations. Does she want to pursue the WNBA? Does she want to pursue the NBA? Does she want, at some point, especially in today's day and age, does she want to see if she can do this somewhere else? Challenge herself. She's Philly made. Does she want to go somewhere up there? I don't know. It reaches a point where whenever anyone has success, you evaluate, okay, here's what I've accomplished. Can I accomplish more here? Do I want to accomplish more here? Or do I want to challenge myself and see if I can duplicate what I've done here and do it somewhere else? I don't know what's in Dawn Staley's head, but it would absolutely surprise me if this is a 10, 15-year thing longer for Dawn Staley at South Carolina. I think this is rolling now, and I think you should enjoy every second of it right now, because her name will continuously come up. The reason her name came up in the NBA searches, she wanted it to. It didn't just pop up like randomly. Agents, coaches, that she was in the conversation. It didn't happen just by happenstance.
Exactly. Yeah, you could shut that down quick if you want to, and it didn't. And now it helped her. It got her paid, that's for sure.
Yep.
And she's about to get paid again. She's already qualified. Well, this year alone, she qualified for over $650,000 in bonus money. $250,000 last night was made in that game. And so it's incredible. 3 of the last 6 seasons, the South Carolina Gamecocks have finished number 1. This one, the 2017 year in which they won the national championship, and I mentioned the 2020 season, they got cut short due to COVID. And so they have finished number 1 3 of the last 6 years with a couple of national championships. I see that as a dynasty because nobody else has done that since then. So it almost feels like the very early stages of Nick Saban and what he got rolling at Alabama. And there are sometimes, I think, in sports where you see these stretch runs and then you look to the future and you go, yeah, man, it's, we'll see what it looks like, but boy, they're losing a lot here. They're losing a lot there. Or like, there is no sign of that in South Carolina. And there hasn't been. I mean, they replaced Asia Wilson basically with Aaliyah Boston. I mean, guys, they built a statue of Asia Wilson. I think there should be a statue of Aaliyah Boston here before long, right? She's done everything that Asia's done and about to be more. And so, and she's coming back. she's not done. Like they're taking in transfer. They took in the best player from the ACC last year in a transfer. The best player in the country coming out of high school this year is coming to South Carolina. I mean, this is unbelievable. Everything that they're doing has a 1 next to it. Best player, final rankings, transfers. It's remarkable what's going on. And you think there are I don't know that Carolina fans going back 12, 13 years ago, I know that there's people are pissed off with the baseball program now, rightfully so. They've been frustrated with football, rightfully so. But there's been 2 baseball national championships and 2 women's basketball national championships in the last 12 years. That's not a lot of people can say that.
That's strong. It's really strong. And the women's basketball faithful, they're loyal, man. The women basketball faithful for Carolina are diehard loyal. It's not the entirety of the fan base, but it isn't that way for anybody around the country, that it pulls in the entirety of the fan base. But it's also not that way around the country that they're as loyal a group as the South Carolina women's fans are. I mean, they outdraw many of the men's programs around the country and most of the women's around the country. So that segment of the fan base appreciates it. That segment of the fan base absolutely knows it. And the bigger portion of the fan base, I get the sense they feel it. I mean, there was noticeable excitement last night from everybody, but that's good. It shows you the work that has to go into a women's basketball program, how much has to be accomplished, like 2 national championships and a dynasty or one being built, for really everyone to be piling on board and starting to say, oh, okay, look what we got here. Like, we are the new UConn. So again, that's another tip of the cap to Dawn Staley and to what she's built.
Yeah, no doubt. And they were really struggling before Dawn Staley came to South Carolina. Susan Walvius had a couple of nice seasons, and then they went in the tank, and then they kind of hovered around 500. And then Dawn took over and broke them down and built them back up. And they haven't let that go. This is remarkable what's happening. Just a remarkable run. Mike Uva will join us in about 10 minutes, and he will be live from Minneapolis. And so he was covering the game last night, and so he'll break everything down that can be broken down that's happened up there. South Carolina is pulling into town today. So for those of you that are going to be in Columbia, you can watch us till 2 and then hustle on over. Colonial Life Arena is where they will arrive at 2:30, or a little bit before 2:30. There will be a welcome home ceremony out in front of Colonial Life Arena with Dr. Pastides, Coach Tanner, and Dawn Staley leading that, and it is expected to draw thousands of people. There were thousands of students last night, Darren, that were in the fountain at Carolina. 2 of my cousins were them as well. They sent me pictures from 5 Points and from jumping in the fountain there in front of the library, Thomas Cooper Library, which has become a really neat tradition in South Carolina. And so I told her, I said, hey, I told my cousin, I said, look, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Cherish this every minute of it, because this isn't normal. You don't get to do this a lot. So swim and do whatever you're going to do, and remember this the rest of your life. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, please, by all means, if you're a Carolina fan or student, yes, remember all of college, but remember the stupid stuff you did in celebration. You did safely, by the way, in celebration of the big moments, because those are some of my best stories to this day. And by the way, unfortunately, one of the best athletic achievements for Penn State when I was there was winning an NIT game against Princeton. We don't need to go down that road at all, but those are the things that you actually do remember. One cool little side story I had forgotten. Dean Stevens, the former anchor for ABC News 4 down here, and still one of my good friends, one of his sons is on what Dawn Staley called the highlighters, the practice squad. If you're not aware of this, any good women's college basketball team practices against a group of guys regularly. They're on the practice squad to give them, more strength, size, anything going up against them to prepare them. And Charlie is one of the highlighters, and apparently he gets a ring. So I'm curious to see if he's a part of the celebration. But Dawn gave a shout out to the highlighters in one of her post game hits last night.
Yep.
And that's who she's talking about was Charlie and all the other guys who were part of that practice squad.
That is really cool. Yeah, she's amazing. Apparently, Darius Rucker, by the way, is going to be playing a free concert as well on the Horseshoe because of this. So, I mean, it's a movement. It's a movement under Dawn. And I did see, Ryan, your comment here in the Share Healthcare chat lines. I'd have to assume that there is more money to be made for Dawn at the college level. Not that she is in it for the money, but I'm not sure about the financial level the WNBA plays out. Yeah, so, the way that I don't want to speak for Coach Staley, but the way that I see it is Dawn has built herself to a level where she can champion a movement for the change that she believes in.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that is in minority coaches or, more money in women's sports, basketball, whatever it is, there's some things out there that she fights for. And so the way that I see this, like, does Dawn need a bunch of money? I mean, probably not. I don't know her financial situation, but I would kind of assume no. But the more money that she can, the higher she can raise that bar, it's going to help those that are striving to be the next Dawn Staley. And that's kind of the way I feel like she's looked at it for a while. So she'll always continue to kind of fight and push the envelope for what she believes in. I'm not sure that she'll always get everything she asks for. Nobody does. But she has certainly paved a way for many out there who maybe didn't think that it was possible to do some of the things that she's done. And that's what she believes in. And that's fantastic. I'm not going to get, I know some people will want to go down a political road with this conversation. I'm not trying to do that. I mean, I just think that Dawn, based on her own comments over the years, has said, look, these are some things that I believe in that I'd like to see improved. And she's been vocal about it. And she's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, props to her. I mean, that's what America's all about. I mean, I think what she's done is amazing. She's given opportunity to so many people. And
to Ryan's point, he's right. I wasn't sure of the WNBA coaching salaries, but I thought there were waves made when Becky Hammon was hired from the Spurs to coach the Aces. And 2 months ago, not even 2 months ago in February, there's an article from Yahoo Sports, I believe. She's the first WNBA coach, Becky Hammon, to clear $1 million in annual salary. And Dawn is more than double it. She's 45 South Carolina right now.
Yeah, and with those $650,000 in bonuses, she's well ahead of that. So yeah, if it's about the money for Dawn, you probably don't need to go to the WNBA. Now, if the WNBA is wants more money, that's another conversation to be had. But Dawn Staley's doing it at South Carolina, that's for sure. I did just see a little while ago as well that Aaliyah Boston now has a new NIL deal in place. I think with Orange Theory Fitness after last night's victory. So congratulations to her. She deserves it. She's a class act. And she made sure to mention last night in the post-game interview to ESPN about how many times they've showed that picture of her crying last year in Stanford. She brought it up, and she brought it up very gracefully. But good for her, because obviously that has inspired her throughout the year. That's been something that has inspired her, and she did not let that go. Dawn didn't let a lot of stuff go. Dawn even mentioned ESPN that they need competition in covering women's college basketball. I think she was a little frustrated with a couple of things as well, but we'll get into more of that a little bit. I'll say that, look, I was complaining about the pregame coverage. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was good. Darren, did you? I mean, you're not a Carolina fan.
I watched every second of it, and I think you're like miles off base. I thought it was as 50-50 as it gets. Okay. I thought they did a fabulous job, but I understand where you're coming from because if you're a fan of one of those two schools and your team's playing for a national title, like, you're jacked up, man. You don't want to hear about UConn. And I bet the UConn fans didn't want to hear about South Carolina. When the Nationals were in the World Series, was I watching pregame coverage on TV? No, I was listening to pregame coverage on Nationals radio. Yeah. So I thought ESPN did a tremendous job with their pregame coverage because they had stories on Boston and Beckers. They had stories on the up and down year for UConn and the dominance of South Carolina. They had stories on Ariema and Dawn Staley. They had general middle of the road, not really about either one of them type angles in there as well. You only had an hour, a little more than an hour. So I actually thought it was good.
Well, and I'm not saying that that you're not correct or anything like that. You might be. I turned it off and went to the SEC network.
But I will to my point that's what I did with the Nationals, right? I went to Nationals radio, and you went to Gamecock coverage. So I get what you did.
I will say this. I wasn't, because I don't know, like, we don't know everything. I don't know. So I want to be clear here. Like, I thought they missed an opportunity. Like, why would you not have maybe Asia Wilson in some of the broadcast? Maybe they asked her and she turned it down. I don't know. I have no idea. So I thought the fact that it was literally all UConn alumni covering the game, that was a little, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I'll say Rebecca Lobo, by the way, has gotten much better. She's good. She rubbed me the wrong way for a long time. She is much better. And throughout the broadcast last night, I really enjoyed her insight. I know a lot of people won't share that. I personally did. But I'll also say this, and we'll go to break. In contrasting or contradicting my own complaint, all of those young ladies or ladies who were on the broadcast and they're UConn alumni, I mean, they've kind of earned it. I mean, UConn changed the game, and these are the girls that did it, and they kind of earned it. So I'll give them that. Carolina doesn't have all those out there, so I get that, and it shouldn't be about that. Like, it shouldn't be a fan thing. I watched 20-30 minutes of it, and I was like, we're talking about Title IX and this and that. I hadn't heard the first thing, in my opinion, about South Carolina and what they'd accomplished. So I turned it off too early, apparently. I must have missed a lot of what was to come.
And to the UConn players' credit, the former players, they're really good at their job. It hits a chord with me anytime somebody says a broadcaster is biased because they went to a school. It's not true.
Yeah, and I wasn't saying that.
Right? No, you weren't saying it right then. Yeah. I'm just following because I think they're very good at their jobs that they're doing. I wasn't watching that coverage like, oh, those are two UConn girls. Those are two established women, and then add in others in the industry already. That, to me, they're media professionals at this point. Kirk Herbstreit is not biased when he's doing Ohio State, Penn State.
No, really,
I mean, and that's just one of many, many examples. It is remarkably easy to flip that switch when you're on the air and say, I'm covering these two teams. And then when you're off the air, it's remarkably easy.
Yeah, especially when that salary says this is how you're gonna do it. You'll do it. I've never understood the hate for Herbstreit. Everybody for whatever reason all across the country always hates Herbie, and I don't. I think he's the best at what he does. All right, we got to go. But when we come back, we'll be live with Mike Uva in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And believe me, we still have a national championship to talk about tonight. We're going to get there. I promise you. Gene Sapakoff will join us from Augusta. We have somebody at Minneapolis and somebody in Augusta today. Anybody else doing that out there?
I misheard you. I'm not sure if Gene's there. I was saying Tiger's there. Gene's definitely going to be there. I'm not sure if he's there yet. Well, but he'll be there.
Text Gene and tell him just say he's there.
Just pretend.
Okay. We'll be right back.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need the perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about: stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
It's the best time of the year on the sports calendar, and there's no better place to soak it all in than your spring headquarters. Dog and Duck, with 3 area locations in Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. Until May, $5 pints of Wicked Weed Brews and Devil's Backbone, again, until May. Patio seating, happy hour daily, family bingo on Monday, the Duck Truck Double Burger every Wednesday, rib night on Friday. It's the place to be for the best wings in town, the best sports everywhere you look. Dog and Duck, 3 area locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, 12:35. Monday afternoon. Monday after the national championship. Gamecocks have done it again under Dawn Staley. That is 2. Darren, there's an umpire that used to call a lot of games when I was playing baseball, and that's how he called strike 2. He'd go, 2. I was like, dude, just call it a strike. Never mind. All right, let's see what he looks like here. He's alive. Mike Uva with exceptional coverage of South Carolina's trip to the Final Four and ultimately to the national championship last night. Mike, wow, what an evening! Describe it? What was it like out there, man? It looked awesome.
Yeah, I feel like it's still evening. I went to bed at 5 a.m.
Here we go.
No, it was awesome. It was awesome. And, you guys know this. I mean, I didn't obviously go to school at USC and, I have no dog in the fight unless it's a Boston team. But, you build these relationships with these players and coaches, and it's neat to be able to see them be rewarded. And, outside of the fact that it's a team that we cover, knowing the history side of it, the fact that it was just crazy to me. I didn't realize this, that both men and women's basketball, that Dawn Staley is the first Black coach to win multiple titles in both. I mean, think about that. Win both, you know what I mean? For it to occur. I mean, I'm like, all right, I can see that happening for women's basketball. I'm like, but that's never happened for men's basketball either. It's just insane. So from the historical side of it, it's absolutely incredible. And I think, too, you appreciate knowing that it wasn't that long ago. And I'm not trying to get people's hopes up, but it wasn't that long ago. And I had a chance to be able, and I see Adam talking about it on seeing me on ESPN last night, going up to Asia. That's the first question I asked her. I said, you broke the mold. You broke the mold. You decided to stay home and it got the ball rolling. How much do you appreciate knowing that? And you see that. I mean, look, I don't know what will happen with men's basketball. We saw it with football during the early 2010 period. Some of those guys staying home. Asia did it. And because of that, it got the ball rolling. Dawn Staley, of course, plays a large part in that. But, I mean, just like Marcus Lattimore told me the other day, if Alshon Jeffrey didn't commit to South Carolina, he wasn't going to commit. I don't know how often he's said that publicly. But you have certain players that commit. People just look at it and be like, hey, Asia did it. I want to do it now. And that's what we're seeing right now at South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, there's now the argument argument to be made that you better clear some room next to Asia's statue out there. Leah Boston is deserving of one by the standard that Asia set, but Dawn Staley's kind of deserving of a statue herself. This is remarkable. Does she, in your conversations with her, how often does she acknowledge her achievements? It seems like she always gives it back to her players. She never says much about herself.
She's just the type of person that's always looking ahead in terms of like what's next, right? Like she'll enjoy this championship. There's no question about it. And then, I mean, look, not to try to get all political because we don't need to be, but, you know, this team took a lot of flack this weekend, you know, for things that if you have been following the team all season long, it was a non-story. If you were upset about something, it just goes to show that you weren't following the team all season. And obviously there was some misinformation in there as well. She's always focused on being able to take care of the next thing to be able to help this team. And the fact that they won this championship last night, of course, they're going to enjoy it. But, I mean, shoot, the question now is how long will Dawn allow herself to enjoy it? Maybe outside of when they have the parade, whenever that gets announced. She's going to want to go out there and repeat. You know, I mean, these are things that what she's trying to do at South Carolina, you look at the standard, and she called it the standard. You see what Gino's been able to do at UConn. The fact that they were 11-0 in national championship games going into last night is insane. That's Gino's first loss in a title game. You've seen what Pat Summitt, we talk about the SEC, what Pat Summitt means, not just to Tennessee basketball or SEC basketball, but just to the sport as a whole. I think Dawn has that self-awareness. And we've said this before. I don't know if I've said it on your airwaves. Dawn's very likely, and now after last night, I think it's all but cemented now, she'll become the first female to ever be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, both as a player and as a coach. First female. There's like a handful that have been inducted both as players and coaches on the men's side, but never a female. So I think the fact that she was able to get that second ring, now you start talking about that elite class. Look, that's not to say Dawn wasn't a good coach if she didn't win another national championship for the rest of her coaching career. But you want to be considered one of the best, you have to be able to do it more than once. I mean, that's just my opinion. You have to be there's certain classes. She's starting to be able to get into that next class. Now, of course, she's chasing some giants with Gino and Pat, but I mean, shoot, you look at this team, you look at the talent they have coming in next season. I don't think they're anywhere close to hitting their peak as to how good this program can be. I think we're just seeing this thing get started.
Yeah, I don't think they're going anywhere. And when I mean they're not going anywhere, I mean the standard is set. I mean they finished number one 3 out of the last 6 years. They've won 2 national championships. The other number one was the COVID shortened year. They were the favorite to win it that year, Mike, and they were seemingly all but assured of berth in the Final Four at least. Let me ask you this to provide some power to this conversation in what is happening under Dawn Staley. What if they beat anybody but UConn last night? Like, didn't it feel like a changing of the guard because of what you just mentioned? 11-0 in national championship games. It's UConn. They are the standard. I absolutely agree with that. They have been for a long time since Gino kind of took it over from Pat Summitt, and UConn has been unbelievable. But they beat UConn last night. No disrespect to Stanford or NC State or Louisville or Oregon or any of the other great programs out there. They beat the team that's long been considered the standard in the sport, and they beat them soundly. Didn't it feel like a changing of the guard? Like, what do you think the impact of that is, and how is it greater than it would have been by beating someone else?
I think it's one of those things that players can look at from a recruiting standpoint and be like, all right, you know, look what Dawn's doing. You know, Dawn has been able to create something special over there, but now she's beating Gino Auriemma, and she achieved something that's never been done before. I always believe stuff like that can help in the short term, but I think big picture, what it comes down to is consistency. I mean, we've seen South Carolina be able to build something special. They get back to this point next year, though, and win another championship. I think that's when the changing of the guards happen. Because I think the thing is, I mean, it's not like it's professional sports where, you know, you might not be able to bring back a bunch of players the next year, and it's a factory still at UConn. So until that cycle is broken. And the only way you do that is, and I think we're seeing it, not just at South Carolina, but I think we're just seeing the parity of the sport grow. You know, it's more competition. It's not, you know, is it the same like men's basketball? No, I mean, it's still top heavy, the better teams in the country. We know that, but I think it's more difficult. I think it's more difficult now than it's been in a long, long time. We expected South Carolina to get to the Final Four. But at the same time, too, I mean, look at the challenges that they had to go through. I mean, they didn't even win the SEC tournament for crying out loud, you know? So the fact, I think it was 14 top 25 teams they beat this year. I mean, what they were able to do is incredible. And I think the other thing is Dawn said it last night. She said it all season long. And I think that has to be appealing, too, to recruits is that, hey, they want to go out and they want to play the best teams in the country. And as the sport continues to grow, as the money starts to come in, and we're seeing that from, you know, obviously these TV deals starting to make an impact, girls are going to want to play on national television. And they're going to have that opportunity at South Carolina because Dawn is doing more than just building something special at South Carolina from a program standpoint. She's really just changing the sport as a whole. And she's become, you know, one of the faces of women's basketball, not just college, but it's just the entire sport. And I think that resonates with a lot of these players because, you know, spoiler, a lot of them are black. She's able to relate with them. I mean, you look at the other three coaches in the Final Four, and that's no disrespect to the coaches. I mean, Jeff's done a tremendous job at Louisville.
Absolutely.
Gino, phenomenal. I mean, it says, you know, his work speaks for itself. And then what Tara's been able to do, not just at Stanford, but just for the sport itself, has been incredible. But I think it's just different. And I think right now we're talking about having a voice more than ever, regardless of, like I said, regardless of political opinions. A lot of these players can resonate with that. They can be able to look at her as a second mother figure. And a lot of them last night and all week long have said that Dawn is a mother figure to them.
Mike Uva with Gamecock Central in Minneapolis. Yeah, and I mean, her story, I mean, she's self-made. I mean, it's a success story. It's an American success story. I mean, a girl from Philly, didn't come from much, and she's maybe the greatest female ever in basketball based on her list of achievements, Mike. And now she's got a program that is getting itself into this conversation of one word, dynasty. Is this a dynasty?
Not yet. And Dawn said that too. And even if Dawn said it was, I would disagree with her. You know, call me arrogant.
What will that take?
I think you have to at least win next year, and then you can start the conversations. You know what? And it's obviously it's different for college sports, right? And I said, you know, call me arrogant because I mean I've seen the dynasties up in New England with the Patriots. I mean, to be able to win 3 championships in 4 years, it's just different, of course, right? For college, I think if you're able to get that win next year and win a national championship, I think that's when the talks start to happen. You know, because it's not going to be the exact same comparing it to professional sports. I think if you can win, you know, 3 championships in a span of, what would that be, 5, 6, 7 years? You know, I think what you're able to basically, in my opinion, is this, right? Look at Alabama. I think that's the best thing to look at. Look at Alabama. We know Gino and, you know, Tennessee. We know that. But in terms of like what's present, look at Alabama. I mean, they're a dynasty. They're a dynasty. I think if you're able to have classes that cycle in and out, and you're able to get 2 championships with some of those classes, you know, they overlap a little bit. I think that is when you start to have the dynasty talks. So I don't think they're there yet. I mean, but like we said right at the beginning, I think this show is just getting started for them. I think the wheels are spinning right now. They have so much more talent coming in. I mean, it's scary to think what that roster could look like next year.
I agree with you. I mean, in the last segment, I basically said, you know, maybe the foundation of a dynasty is beginning to take shape. We're seeing, because it's a bigger time, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Can you sustain it over time? And this is 2, and this is a short period of not just 2, but other greatness around it. But is there more, and how much time can you sustain this? And win another, and the foundation has grown, and you can start talking a little more.
Because we see it all the time, and Don even alluded to it last night. Is, you know, I don't know if she exactly called it the TikTok generation. She's like, some of the younger kids, some of the younger players might be like, yeah, it's a dynasty, but we also see a lot of GOAT phrases thrown around, right? Oh, this person's the GOAT, that person's the GOAT. Come on, So I think it's one of those things too. It's not to, man, I feel like I'm the old man yelling at a cloud now. Boy, I'm getting it all. But no, but we've got to a point now though, where that instant gratification, that instant, hey, we want success. Dawn gets it. Her players get it too, but she's going to make, damn sure that she reiterates it. It's not a dynasty right now. And if you're able to go out there and have success, that's the other thing too. They go out there, they have a good season next year, make it back to the Final Four. They come up short. I hate doing hypotheticals, but the following season they win it. I think you could still talk about having, the dynasty talks. Sure. I don't think that window has to be, okay, they have to win next year. But I think what we're seeing is the beginning of what could be a dynasty. But there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in order to before we have those conversations, at least in my opinion.
Do y'all think that UConn is still a dynasty? They haven't won one in 6 years, so.
I think they were. Like the Patriots are not currently a dynasty.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been in the Final Four every year. They just haven't won the national championship since.
Well, think about in Tom Brady's 1 million shows post-retirement now that he's coming back, after 40 days. I know another guy that came back in 40 days. Never seen both of them in the same room. Just saying.
True.
That one, Darren got that joke. I think that went over JB's head a little bit. Easter's coming up. There you go.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
but the thing was though, with I think it's what is it? Oh shoot, I should know this by now. I mean, I've watched the Brady documentary that's on ESPN. Point being is, even the way he broke that up, it was Dynasty 1 and the second Dynasty. During that span where they weren't winning titles. So I think for UConn, I think you realize, okay, what they can be if they were to win a national championship last night, and then they win, they win one next year. Then you get things going. But I think right now it's kind of like a volcano, for UConn. They're dormant right now.
Yeah, I mean, as opposed to the word dynasty, I just think that it right now, it's their era. This era of the sport is being defined by South Carolina. And then that will transition, if they continue that success, into maybe that word, and then it would be 3 dynasties in the history of women's basketball. You'd have Tennessee, you'd have UConn, and then you'd have the changing of the guard once again to South Carolina. Right now, I agree with both of you. I think you're both spot on. I think that this fits in with some of the elite programs that we've seen in the sport. Stanford, Texas has had their years. Yeah. And I'm missing some out there that have had elite runs, but just weren't quite there yet. But it could be because, as you pointed out, Mike, they're not going anywhere. I mean, everything that Dawn is doing right now has a 1 next to it. Top class in the country, top player in the country. They finish first in the country. They lead the country in attendance. First to do this, first to do that. First player ever. I think I just saw a stat. Somebody, Adam, in our Share Healthcare chat lines. ESPN released a stat. Boston, first woman ever to average 15 points and 15 boards during the tournament. I mean, they're literally doing things that have never happened before, left and right, every day. So,
and what is the goal for a lot of these players outside of the obvious, which is being able to win a national championship? They want to be able to play in the WNBA. They want to be able to get drafted high. Destiny Henderson, I mean, what a phenomenal story. She came in. She was patient. She could have entered the transfer portal. She stuck it out. It was hard at times. There was questions as whether or not she was capable of being able to play the point guard position in this offense early on in her career. But she stuck things out, and not just her sticking things out, but Dawn stuck it out with her as well and gave her that opportunity. And she continued to grow. And I mean, man, to be able to put up 26 points, a career high in your last game of your career, that is, I mean, we were talking with some of the people at the team hotel last night, and you have, some WNBA scouts and just people that follow the team or follow the sport, I should say, of college basketball. They said that performance might be able to get her to crack the top 10, to be able to get drafted.
Wow.
They think right now that she's top 15. But the point being is this.
Oh.
You have that. You look at what, obviously the Asia Wilsons, then when Aaliyah Boston, who, by the way, we've had to freaking answer this question, I feel like, for months, okay? Hear me clear, okay, everybody? Aaliyah Boston will be back next season. She is not eligible to go into the WNBA draft because of her age. Just want to throw that out there. Aaliyah Boston will be back. But you look at what South Carolina has been able to do, and it goes back even before that, right? You can go to, Tiffany Mitchell. Point being is this. You can use that from a recruiting standpoint. Like, hey, look, we win championships, but you want to play in the WNBA? These players aren't only going there, but they're having success because they're learning from someone that played in the WNBA, that played on Team USA. And one of the best things that Dawn said this weekend, guys, and I think this is the most – I always thought, NBA coaches – I use NBA coaches, for example – there's not a lot of strategy that really goes into it. It's like, all right, you just have to Phil Jackson, all that. And maybe I'm just sounding like very arrogant when I say all this, but my point being is this. The egos that you have to be able to control when you have teams that good is friggin' impressive. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying this team was like, the Chicago Bulls of the 90s in terms of egos, but my point being is this. You have a lot of young, talented players that come in here. Highly recruited, highly touted, all these 5 stars, this and that. You need to get everyone to buy in because if they don't, it's not going to work. And one of the best things I heard Dawn say, not just this weekend, but I'd say even all season long, but she said it this weekend, and I'm paraphrasing. Back in the spring last year, she told her players, hey, if you don't like your role, then fake it. Fake that you like it. Because he's like, if we win a championship, that's how people are going to remember you. She's like, I've won 3 gold medals. I only started on one of those teams, but you never hear it. No one ever brings that up. So you win championships. I mean, shoot, Brian Scalabrine. I mean, 10, 20, 30 years from now, people are going to probably say he was the MVP, the Celtics 2008 team, I mean, the God's honest truth. People aren't going to remember stuff like that. They're going to remember you got a ring. And for the Olivia Thompsons of the world and everything, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. But I think that needs to be discussed more, is just how she's able to get people to buy in, because it's tough. Because if not, you won't see people go to your school. They're going to be like, oh, I'll just do my own thing. And then you're not going to have all that talent the same way that South Carolina has been able to collect over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. That's an amazing point that Dawn made there. I don't know that people understand, and I'm one of those people. I don't know that any of us can understand what it's like. This isn't football. I mean, where you're playing 22 guys as starter, you're playing 50 dudes a game, basically. This is basketball. And I don't know that any of us understand what it's like to manage 90% of your roster that are all Americans. They could have chosen to go anywhere they want to, and they're all there. They all want to play. They all want to be the star, and Dawn manages that. One of the things that I love, Mike, that she does the most is she lets them play, and then she knows when to reel them in. It's amazing because she's been there. She's been a star. She knows you got to let your stars go out there and play. Sometimes they're going to screw up, and you got to reel them in. And she does that as well as anybody ever that I've ever seen. One final one for you, and we got to let you run. We can't make Scott Wingo wait around. He gets mad at us. It did seem last night that they were waiting to win this. And Dawn and Aaliyah specifically were waiting to kind of address some things that have maybe been a little under their skin over the months. Did you get that feel as well?
Shoot, over the months, and then just specifically this weekend too, and with everything we saw from the national anthem stories. And I'll tell you what. I'm not going to say who. That reporter that wrote that, though, halftime last night, she got cussed out by someone at USC, and it was awesome. And the reason I say it's awesome is because us local reporters are the ones that take the heat when those stories come out. So to be honest with you, I was pissed off that story came out. I honestly, like I said, politics aside, I was pissed off. I can tell you every single local media member that was here for South Carolina was pissed off because what happens is this. These national media people put these stories out, and that's all they do, right? They don't have to deal with anyone. Some of these people come in here, they don't even cover the team all year. They don't even cover sports.
Yeah.
They do a story like that, and what happens? It gets people riled up, and then you have to deal with people back in South Carolina pissed off at us. So, it was aggravating to say the least. And if you haven't listened to it, Dawn was phenomenal. Dawn addressed that. She wasn't even asked. She addressed it, and she was as calm as can be. And basically what she said is just like, that just wasn't, she's like, I can take it. I can take it. I'm a grown woman, kind of like the calm version of, I'm a man, I'm 40. Kind of was like the calmer version of that. But, all jokes aside, she said, I can handle that. But that's not fair to my players. That's not fair to this team having an opportunity to play in the grandest of stages. And they have to know what's, they're being, nasty things are being tweeted at them for no reason.
Yep. Right.
So the fact that I think it goes back to managing egos, being able to control what you can't control and ignoring the noise. And she did a tremendous job with that. But Aaliyah, that picture last year of coming up short, she wanted to be able to have that smile. And it was awesome to be able to see that happen for her as well.
They were, they were ready to address it, and they did. And I know one thing: you can only talk about it one way today. National champions once again, Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks. 2:30 this afternoon in front of Colonial Life Arena will be a celebration with Coach Tanner, Dr. Pastides, and Dawn leading the way there. And there will be announcements forthcoming about a parade. The state flag, the South Carolina flag is already flying on the State House. And Darius Rucker is planning a concert at some point in time soon on the Horseshoe. It will be free.
He confirmed it. He'll
do it.
Hey, as a Big J journalist,
did he get a tattoo? Did he get a Gamecock tattoo? Is that real?
It may be fake. I mean, I saw that brief. I saw that brief. I have to go back and see it. But as a Big J journalist, I did what everyone wanted. I went to Harris Pastides, Dr. Pastides, and I said, "Hey, what do you want to say to Darius?" And he said it. And not gonna lie, seeing Darius Rucker retweet you, that's pretty cool, or quote tweet you, whatever the heck it's called. Hey, we like to hold people accountable here.
That's right.
Some reporters don't like to be held accountable though when they screw up. Friggin' bum.
No, some don't, but you do, and that's good. Hey, have a safe trip home, Mike. Great stuff, great coverage. I like the suit last night, looking sharp, my friend. And we'll talk to you here very, very soon.
Appreciate it. Shout out to the old company for giving me all that money for those suits back in the day.
Oh, nice.
Nice clothing allowance. We appreciate you.
Parting shots, huh? Well done.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Don't forget your shovel.
You guys.
Right.
Nope.
There you go. See ya. Mike Uva with Gamecock Central joining us from Minneapolis. By the way, the celebration at 2:30 today will be aired live on the SEC Network. So you can check that out wherever you are if you can't be there. When we return, tougher times in Columbia, Missouri this weekend for the baseball team. We'll check in with Scott Wingo. Not going to spend a ton of time with him today. We do have a national championship to talk about tonight, and then we got to get to Gene Sapakoff. But Scott Wingo will lead off hour 2 when we return. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And to others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. more affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
Final hour, Monday afternoon. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes, not just cases. MotleyRice.com. Coming up at about 1:30, 35, somewhere in there is Gene Sapakoff, of course, with the Post and Courier. And we think he's in Augusta. Usually he spends the whole week in Augusta.
He's definitely on his way. I'm not sure if he is there yet, but he's definitely on his way.
8.
Oh, what is that? Is that Scotty?
Well, no. Well, that's
What
the back end of his phone. Yeah.
we'll give him just a second. And here I sent him a message, Darren. So when I tell you what, I'll give you the old back channel. He's good when he's good and is able to pop in with us. But anyways, we have Gene Sapkov coming up here in just a little bit, and certainly looking forward to talking to him about the Masters and wrapping up the Women's National Championship. We will talk about tonight's National Championship game with Kansas and North Carolina as well. Those are the two of the
three. Number 1, 3
of the all-time winningest programs, right?
Yes.
Kansas is 1, North Carolina's 3. Behind Kentucky.
And there's your graphic for it. Yes, 9 combined titles. Kansas has the most overall wins. North Carolina has the 3rd most overall wins. And let me throw some fun nuggets at you. This is from an article, I want to say on CBSSports.com. UNC is 5-0 in New Orleans in the Final Four. They have also lost 3 straight times to Kansas since Roy Williams left Kansas to go to North Carolina. All 3 of those have been in the NCAA tournament. One was a Final Four, one was a regional final, and one was in the second round. There are so many just dynamic storylines that surround this that really just continue the whole blue blood Final Four theme that we've had now for, I guess, a week. But it's Kansas and North Carolina, man. All the numbers stack up again.
Well, if they win tonight, they will have in this tournament, Darren, beaten UCLA, Duke, and Kansas. I don't know if that's ever happened before, but they will have beaten UCLA, Duke, and Kansas in the same tournament. I'd be anxious to see if someone out there has a stat on that. Those are clearly three of the blue bloods of all time. I do want to reverse course back to Duke and North Carolina on Saturday night. It was an amazing finish to the game. They were just both hitting shots back and forth. I had the feel with a couple of minutes to go that Duke was going to squeak it out. It felt like destiny at that point in time, literally.
They were the better team throughout until that pretty much right after you thought that. I mean, I was pretty confident most of the game. This is probably Duke's game. And then the Baycott injury and then the foul out. And you're like, yeah, Duke's probably going to win this game. But Caleb Love was the difference. And if Caleb Love is that again, then I don't know what to expect tonight.
I mean, I think Kansas is going to win the national championship.
So do I.
Going into tonight. But, boy, you can't discount North Carolina. I mean, this is Hubert Davis should be the national coach of the year, right? Like, is there anybody else who deserves this award more than Hubert Davis?
Well, if Bill Self wins the title, I would say Bill Self. They've been a better team throughout the entire year in the best conference, and then you cap it off with a national championship. What he's done right from the midpoint to where they are now, the improvement that you've seen, that's remarkable. I mean, Ed Conroy talked about it, about how not all teams are ready to roll in November and December. Sometimes it takes a little while for teams to gel. And I heard Jay Billis talking about it as well, saying there was a time, and it was right before one of their broadcasts. It may have been before the first Duke North Carolina game, or maybe it was right after that, after Duke just smashed them at Carolina. But there was a point when Davis went to the guys and said, you're either going to own this and you're going to play defense the way we're taught, or you're not playing. I mean, you guys all need to man up. That's basically Billis paraphrasing his conversation. And from that point on, this team has been different. They've been a much better defensive team than their metrics say, even though the metrics are rising. But particularly over the last, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, going back to the ACC tournament, a little bit beyond that, they've been one of the better defensive teams in the country. And that's really keyed it. And that goes back to Hubert Davis saying, guys, look, the talent's right here. You're either going to man up or you're not. And that was a turning point, according to Billis.
What's the line tonight? 4.5?
Yeah, it's 4. I'm not sure if it's gone to 4.5 or not, but it's Kansas by 4. I think it's the right number. It certainly is based on the body of work. But like you just said, it's hard to sit here and say, well, based on what I've seen from North Carolina, they're going to lose to anybody. So it's an interesting game because of that. You've got one of the best teams all year long where they should be, and then you've got maybe the hottest team in the country with all the dudes to match.
I mentioned that if they win tonight, they will have defeated UCLA, Duke, and Kansas in the same dance. They would also have defeated 2 number ones, so they would have knocked out 2 of the number ones in the field as well by winning the national championship tonight for North Carolina. Quick note on that game pertaining to some conversations we had last week. The early numbers, I don't think these are official, but according to Front Office Sports, 16.3 million viewers across TBS, TNT, and True TV, projected to finish the second most watched basketball telecast in cable history between the Tar Heels and the Blue Devils on Saturday night. But Coach K's run is over. And I this, like the loss doesn't affect his legacy or his career or anything like that. It was But there was a little bit of an empty feeling, I'll admit, at least in my stomach, to see him walk off the court for the final time and losing to his rival, North Carolina. I could have cared less who won the game. I just wanted to see a good one, which is what we got. But I will admit that just from the love of sports type part of me, Darren, there was something about it. Seeing this guy walk off for the final time, thinking, man, that's got to be a gut killer there. You just got beaten by, for the second time, your rival, and this time in the Final Four. Every eyeball out there in sports is on you, and here's the camera as you enter the tunnel for the final time, leaving the floor, and it was the Tar Heels that knocked. Literally any other team in the country could have done this to you, but no, it was North Carolina. That was, I don't know, from a sports side, that was tough to see.
I've always defended Coach K as a person because I'm not someone who dislikes Duke or hates Duke or anything like that.
Me neither.
Tip of the cap to him for going up to Baycott as well right after the game.
Yeah.
I thought he looked frail often and old and like he was almost in pain when he was walking, Coach K. But a weird something North Carolina fans aren't going to let any Duke fan ever forget.
Oh,
Coach K's first loss as a Duke coach was to North Carolina. Coach K's last game at home was a loss to North Carolina. And Coach K's last game was a loss to North Carolina. So you can throw everything you want at North Carolina fans, and they're going to have those 3 bullet points all the time. All the time. And the reality is the rivalry is just about 50-50. You've seen all those numbers all the time. And no, this does not impact his legacy. Nothing like that. But it is ironic, I think, in many ways, that a rivalry as big as this, with a figure as big as Coach K, his first ever loss at Duke, his final home game, and his final game, all North Carolina.
I agree, Darren. I think that's a tough pill to swallow for Duke fans, regardless of all the achievements, all the titles, 5 titles with Coach K, all that type of stuff, all the times they beat North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But his final season will be remembered for losing to North Carolina.
Yeah, sure,
forever. I mean, you can't change that. It is what it is. Nobody would have cared had they won the national championship, but you had to go through North Carolina to do that. So, yeah, that was I tried to, very much like I was telling my cousin last night in Columbia, I was like, hey, embrace this. And I tried to do that Saturday night watching the game, because you'll tell your grandkids one day that you got to see that. So somewhere this is going to come back up in history a lot. And in 20 years or 30 years, it's going to be a dinner conversation, or it's going to be something on TV that references this, the Leitner show. There's so many things that have happened over the years that we were not a part of that other people tell us that they were a part of. This is going to be one of those. Duke and North Carolina played in the Final Four. Maybe at that point in time still for the only time ever. So I was trying to wrap myself in the moment of watching these two programs go at it in New Orleans as rivals for the first time, and for probably the last time for a while, and definitely for the last time with him. And I just kept trying to think about all the other amazing sports moments on a national scale, nothing that I'm personally invested in, like South Carolina, but that we've been a part of. And yeah, it brought back some really neat stuff. So I think they accomplished what they set out to accomplish on a national level. I will admit I am really shocked to see North Carolina in the national championship game. I didn't even know that they get out of the first round.
Right. I mean, that's a pretty common thought, because this was a team that came together at the right time. And while they were hot early, before the end of the season, that's when it really started. That is when it started. But throughout the year, it's not something that you thought of. The thought I kept coming back to watching the game, and I just tweeted this out too, when games have build up like that, it's virtually impossible for the game to live up to the pregame hype. And the hype surrounding this game was on an all-time hype level. This game may have exceeded the hype. It was everything you could possibly have asked for. With everything surrounding it, they produced a fabulous basketball game. And it's rare. I mean, it's hard it's hard to even envision a scenario in my head when a game is hyped that much with that much around the game that doesn't even impact the game, just history and just weight on top of the game. And then the actual importance of the game, all of it combined for a game to live up to that, that's impossible. This game surpassed it in my eyes. It was everything a college basketball fan could want.
Put that graphic back up, combined championships and all that.
Which one?
Because Kansas, yeah, Kansas has 3, right?
No. Kansas has 3, Carolina has 4. 6. 3 and
so
6.
If they seventh national championship tonight would put them. Kentucky has 8. UCLA has 11. Kentucky has 8, if I remember correctly. So they would nothing's going to change from any of that standpoint. They'll stay in third with 7. Wow. Who wins?
I think Kansas wins. I thought Duke was going to win, but I will rely on. I think Kansas will be able to have some effectiveness on the inside. I don't know how long. Baycott's going to be fine, especially early. But if anything goes wrong, losing Baycott's going to hurt. You're going to see some different, big versus small type lineups. If Kansas goes small, tries to run Manic out and around and have him chasing a little bit. They're one of the better offensive rebounding teams. Duke's or North Carolina is one of the best defensive rebounding teams. I think a lot of it will be determined in there, and a lot of it will be determined with Caleb Love. I think that's what it comes down to for me. And Abaji. Is Abaji going to hit every shot he takes, like Kansas seemingly did against Villanova?
Yeah.
So to me, those are things to watch. Kansas has been one of the best, if not the best team all year long in the best conference. I'm going with that. And their top 20 offensive and defensive efficiency. I'll go back to that for you.
Yeah. I agree.
Carolina is in the 30s, close to 40 in defense.
I think Kansas wins the game. They've had, as far as the tournament itself, I think they've had the easier road than what North Carolina has gone through. But then again, North Carolina was an 8 seed, so that's just natural.
Yeah.
And now some of that's going
St. Peter's.
Right. Yeah. And Kansas, by the way, has not lost in over a month. March 1st was their last loss on the road at TCU. But I'm with you. I think they win tonight. And the game against Villanova on Saturday, Darren, it went about like I thought it would. I thought that Villanova would have stretches here and there where they were playing well. But overall, I just, with their injury situation and just kind of who they've been as a basketball team, as great as they've been, I didn't see it being particularly close, and it wasn't.
No,
it was a 16-point final.
And I said this last week. It was a lot about who is going to dictate the pace of that game. There was a ton of love on the under in the first half, but then what happened? Villanova couldn't settle in without more. The whole thing was played at a track meet pace, and Kansas hit everything. At some point, I tweeted out that they threw out a stat that Kansas had hit 60 or some % of their shots. It legitimately felt like they had not missed. So, I mean, that's and then at a point, Villanova did settle in, and they found their rhythm, slowed the game down a little bit, and after a while, it was just they were outmanned. They were outmanned in that game.
We'll find out tonight. We're going to talk more about that with Gene Sapakoff in just a little bit. We might not get Scotty today. So they've had some changes. This was just released a little bit ago. North Carolina and South Carolina tomorrow night has been moved to Wednesday night because of rain that's expected to come through tomorrow. Pretty bad weather. So he's trying to. They've had meetings and all kinds of stuff going on in Columbia with these changes. So Scotty is trying to get it figured out. So what I'll probably do, Darren, since we're going to be tight on time, is push him off, maybe try to just squeeze him in tomorrow at some point in time. So for those of you that were interested in hearing what Scott had to say today following South Carolina's series loss at Missouri, let's just hang tight on that because they're kind of maneuvering some schedules up there. Mm-hmm. Again, that is official. North Carolina and South Carolina will now play Wednesday night in Charlotte, where the Gamecocks already beat App State earlier this season. But so they're kind of adjusting some practice schedules and things of that nature to kind of get going. So they're a little bit of a programming update for all of you. Real quick there on the baseball side, Carolina looked like they were prone to take the series as they had a 5-2 lead in the 8th inning in Game 2 Saturday against Missouri. And that one didn't end well. Missouri came back and tied it and then took the lead, and then the Gamecocks tied it in the top of the ninth. You thought, man, Brant Belk is bringing the stuff to his old squad, and Carolina could not figure it out from there. The bullpen let them down, and they lose, and then yesterday they lost again. Now they're 13-14 overall, 3-6 in the SEC. Things not looking good. The good news after Wednesday's game against North Carolina, which will be tough in a neutral site opportunity, and Carolina's been awful in midweek games throughout the season, is that their next two weekend series are at home, where they've been really good. They've beaten Vanderbilt, they've beaten Texas, and these next two series are really good teams. Georgia, who this weekend was outstanding, and then Ole Miss. That will be during the spring game weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So top 15 programs coming to Columbia back-to-back weekends, so that will provide some opportunity for the Gamecocks to get things going in a better direction. But this weekend up at Missouri, that didn't help, losing 2 of 3 there against Missouri, who's not good, guys. No. Let's just be honest. They're just not good. So that just sucks.
At least they found a way to play well against some good teams. I mean, I don't know how that translates. Obviously, the midweek struggles are a problem. The record is a problem. I don't know how that translates down the stretch. If this could be a team that can gel, we know the shorthanded type issues, but I don't know. Yeah. Just a thought. At least they have played well against some good teams. And a Tennessee thought for you. They just swept Vanderbilt now after sweeping Ole Miss, and they're a win away from starting 10-0 in the SEC to tie a record.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, what they're doing is stupid. I think everybody understands that keeps them at number 1, right?
I would hope so.
They are 27-1 this year, and their last loss was Friday, March 4th, exactly 1 month ago. Like, that doesn't happen in baseball. You don't go a month without losing, unless you're Tennessee, apparently. It was 1 month ago today. They lost 7-2 to Texas in the Shriners College Classic. I mean, they're this is ridiculous. I mean, they're outstanding. That has nothing to do with apples and oranges. And talking about South Carolina, Gamecocks have no reason to be 13-14 ever in college baseball. This is pretty unacceptable. The 3-6 SEC record, it's okay. It's the SEC. You're gonna get swept at Tennessee. You're going to lose series on the road sometimes. You don't think you might lose. That's what happens in this conference. 13-14 overall with all those non-conference losses. That's embarrassing, and they can't have that on Wednesday night against North Carolina. That's going to be a toughie up there in Charlotte. Clemson lost 2 of 3 versus NC State this weekend. They're off to a tough start in the ACC. 18-9 overall, just 2-6 in the league. They've got Georgia tomorrow if the weather doesn't prevent that from happening. And then next weekend they go to Notre Dame. So these next 4 games for both Clemson and South Carolina are dangerous for postseason chances. Matter of fact, I'll go as far as to say this, Darren. You ready for my April 4th? Never, ever, ever say things like this on April 4th in college baseball, but I'm saying it now. The next 8 for the Gamecocks, if they're not at least 500 through that, season's over.
Oof. I mean, that's a hammer of a statement.
Well, and I'll tell you why. Because then from there you're playing the numbers game as to what seed you could get if you qualify for the postseason, and it's a razor thin margin. The SEC provides you some leniency. I get that, but it's a razor thin margin. You literally go from like 33 wins to being a 2 seed. 36, 37 and up, you're probably going to be a 1. But then you're like 32, 31, you're teeter-tottering on the 3 seed line, 30 wins, maybe 29 because you have some nice series wins.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get less than that, you're at 500 or worse, so you're not in. You can't get in. And so you're talking about 4 or 5 games that can separate not being in the tournament from being a 2 seed in the tournament. And so if you come out of these next 8, and let's say you're 3-5, and you've got 3 against Georgia, 3 against Ole Miss, and 1 against North Carolina, and 1 against North Florida, which that doesn't matter because they haven't played worth a damn in their midweeks. So if you go 3-5, you're talking about 16-19. The numbers aren't there. You don't, unless you win all your games. And they're not going to do that. So nobody's going to do that unless you're Tennessee. So you see what I'm saying? You're starting to play a numbers game here, and the numbers aren't going to be in their favor. There's just not enough games on the schedule.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're in that position, and a guy like you is correctly, I mean, you're using numbers here to back this up, not just screaming from a mountaintop here. I mean, then there's going to be kind of a here we go again. There's going to be a lot of pressure that has continued to build.
That's a conversation certainly for another day. You and I have had conversations off the air about things we're hearing, but let's just hope that if you're a Carolina fan, let's just hope they win. They just need to win some damn games. College of Charleston lost 2 of 3 at Hofstra. They're 16-12, 4-2 in the CAA. They've got Presbyterian on Tuesday, at Coastal on Wednesday, and then James Madison next weekend. Coastal 16-10-1, 5-3-1 in the Sun Belt. They swept Arkansas State this weekend. Congratulations to the Chants for that. They've got UNCW Tuesday, and I just mentioned they'll host the college on Wednesday. Citadel went to Omaha, had a chance to win on Friday night and could not hang on. They literally had one bad inning. They were winning 2-0. And then it just rain came, and so did the runs for Creighton. And that rolled them right into a sweep over the Dogs. Citadel now 17-10. They've got CSU tomorrow. And then they finally opened SoCon play this weekend at Mercer. So that's a tough one there. And then CSU swept North Carolina A&T this weekend. They're at the Citadel, as I mentioned. Then went through 5-4 the Big South, 13-17 overall. Let me wrap it up. Any game set for tomorrow night is very much subject to weather. So if you haven't checked your weather yet, you might want to do that. Some bad stuff is headed this way, and we will keep our eyes peeled. But tomorrow does not look pretty for the state of South Carolina at all. Adam, what happened to LSU? Yeah, they have 0 scholarship players on the roster. None. Not one. Oh, yeah, look, man, you cheat, these things are going to happen. I don't know what else to say.
I don't think McMahon is caught off guard. I don't think either. I don't think it's an unexpected thing at all. I'm watching it like, there goes another, but not any part of me that thinks I didn't see a mass exodus coming.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No doubt. He came in with the intention of bringing players. I mean, he's done that. They do have technically scholarship guys. He already has a couple of transfers committed. They're just not in yet.
Murray's best player is going.
And Trey Hannibal's going too. He used to be in South Carolina. So, there you go. All right, got to go. When we return, Gene Sapakoff joins us, hopefully from Augusta. We'll find out. And also, is this the greatest sports week on the calendar? Well, ask Gene what he thinks. How about that? We'll be right back. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor, Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
It's the best time of the year on the sports calendar, and there's no better place to soak it all in than your spring headquarters. Dog and Duck, with 3 area locations in Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. Until May, $5 pints of Wicked Weed Brews and Devil's Backbone. Again, until May. Patio seating, happy hour daily. Family bingo on Monday, the Duck Truck Double Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday. It's the place to be for the best wings in town, the best sports everywhere you look. Dog and Duck, 3 area locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road.
You are listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
Final segment on this Monday afternoon. Hootie used to have their Monday after the Masters, Darren. We're going to be Monday before the Masters. How about that on JB and Goldwater? Gamecocks win the national championship last night. Tonight, there's a national championship being played on the men's side with Duke and North Carolina. Now, Major League Baseball.
North Carolina, Kansas.
North Carolina, Kansas. Major League Baseball is going to crank up this week. The Masters is this week. Gene Sapakoff with the Post and Courier. The most important question, is this the greatest week on the sports calendar?
It's got to be right up there. I think, Major League Baseball openers, March Madness, Masters. I mean, there's all kinds of NFL trade talk, college football, spring football going on. I think NBA, NHL. You make a good case, Jamie.
I'm in on it. My answer is yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Kyle Schwarber's hitting the ball over the wall. It's fun.
Well, see, is it Thursday is the first day for baseball, right?
Yeah, who's watching that? First day of the Masters and opening day of baseball. It's a good combo, huh?
Well,
it wasn't supposed to be that way.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. I look, but the Masters will be wrapped up by 8:00, and that's when the Braves and the Reds come on ESPN2. So it's a good transition for me, at least, Gene. The defending world champion, Atlanta Braves. Where are you? Are you in Augusta yet?
No, but I will be leaving at the crack of dawn tomorrow morning for Augusta National Golf Club.
Okay. All right. Does Tiger play?
I lean towards that he does. I think the debate right now with Tiger has to be, I know I can play pretty well for a couple of rounds. If I make the cut, can I play pretty well for 4? And he doesn't want to embarrass himself. Of course, he can do it, but I don't think he wants to go out there and, not play up to somewhat Tiger standards on Sunday or something like that. And I think that's what he's thinking. He thinks, I'm in it to win it. I don't think he's in there just to walk around the course and wave at people.
Gene, real quick, let me squeeze this in real quick, Darren. This is for both of you. Take yourself back 30 days. It's March 4th. I say, hey, Darren and Gene, I got a prediction. I'm going to put $1,000 on it in Vegas. Phil Mickelson doesn't play in the Masters and Tiger Woods does. What would your response have been to me?
Would have been mine.
Yeah, that's actually been on my mind the last few days. That is a very strange circumstance. And then talking about, can Tiger win? You want to bet against this guy? I will say that Tiger Woods has as much chance to win another Masters as you would have thought Phil Mickelson in his 50s could win, in a very difficult course at Kiowa. The ocean course is not only challenging, but just the weather and everything. So anything's possible with Tiger Woods, and Phil will be conspicuous by his absence.
You've seen the videos of Tiger at Augusta by now. You've seen the pictures of his physique and heard what everyone has said. And I believe he is scheduled to speak with the media tomorrow, 11, something like that. What do you expect him to say?
I don't know if he's going to like drop the hint or somebody's going to break the story before that. I imagine he's going to keep it really close to the vest and only discuss it with a few select green jacket wearing Augusta high profile club members before he walks into that presser at 11 tomorrow. But like I said, I kind of think he's going to say he's going to do it. If not, it'll just be heaping effusive praise on the tournament and something like, I'm going to be back next year. But right now, I mean, just because I don't think it's good, smart wagering to bet against Tiger, I'm going to kind of say that I'd lean towards that he will be in the field on Thursday morning.
I just want one more follow-up there. From what you know of Tiger, what we've seen of Tiger, my impression, he's not much for just publicity stunts, right? Like he doesn't do stuff just for coverage, does he?
You would think not, but there's some obligations that he has there. You know, the Champions Dinner on Tuesday night. Yeah, he could bail out of the press conference, I suppose. But I think I see what you're thinking, Darren. And when I saw that presser schedule come up and Tiger Woods was on it yesterday afternoon at about 2:30, I said, this kind of means I think he's going to play.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. I don't know that it's that he will play for any other reason than, hey, I can play and I want to play. I don't think it's symbolic in any way. I don't think that he's looking at it from a, let me send a message or make a statement with this. I just think he wants to play at Augusta. And if he can play, he's going to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, you know that all former Masters champions can play, and that some of the very older guys are non-competing champions that appear on site. And some of those guys in the past have got the dreaded letter from Augusta officials saying maybe you should stop playing the competitive round. Tiger's never going to get one of those letters, never, because he is going to be competitive in the Masters. That doesn't mean he couldn't, miss the cut here and there, or he's not going to play at all.
Outside of Tiger Woods, this is, as of now, this is the story leading into the Masters. If he plays, it will be the story at the Masters until we get a winner, and then God help the winner, because everybody's still going to be talking about Tiger Woods' performance no matter what it is. But is there something else that is intriguing to you? I mean, everything's intriguing about the Masters, and I don't just mean the food, Gene. The golf itself. There have been some changes to the course that's been documented. We've talked about some of that around here a little bit, but from the field itself, the players, what is on your docket? What are you excited to address once you get there?
I mean, I just think there's so many bright young stars in such a parity situation on the PGA Tour that I'm excited to see which one or two or three can break through, maybe even be, a pair of pairings on Sunday that are just going down to the wire. Something like Victor Hovland and Xander Schauffele just having a shootout at the end. Maybe this is Justin Thomas's time. And I just think there's so many. Patrick Cantlay. I mean, there's so many interesting guys there that this is the post-Tiger world coming up. We're not quite there yet, but I think we're standing on the ledge and can look over, and that goes for Phil too. So what does it look like? Well, it looks like some of the guys that I just mentioned, and I think it's a fun and exciting time for golf too. And, a lot of this is that Tiger begat this. These guys, and Justin Thomas is the most outspoken about this because of his friendship with Tiger, but I mean, they grew up not just following Tiger's great golf, but his ridiculous competitive zeal. And a lot of these guys have that too.
That brings up what I was sort of thinking as this rumor started swirling and kind of got bigger. And I started believing, maybe this is going to happen. The guys are on tour are very appreciative of Tiger. They're welcoming. It's a very loving type of feel, but is it in a way, does it hurt this Masters? I mean, it's hard to say it hurts this Masters if Tiger's in it. That's always going to benefit. But all of those guys will be overshadowed completely regardless of how well Tiger's playing, because Tiger's there.
Yeah, and all the businesses along Washington Road and people selling stuff at the Masters are going to love this. There's just going to be an interesting buzz that is just hard to kind of put in any sort of perspective, because you didn't expect Tiger to win in 2019. First of all, that was ridiculous. Then no fans in 2020, not that many, just a few in 2021. And now here come the fans. You know, we talk about the azaleas and the dogwoods being in bloom. The fans are in bloom this Masters. And it's just a beautiful thing, especially if you have a Tiger comeback coinciding with that.
What about Dustin Johnson? Matsuyama won it last year. He withdrew this weekend at the Valero. DJ won it 2 years ago, and he has been way off the radar this far this season.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I would not count him out, because the thing to me is that I think there was always so much pressure on DJ at the Masters, and one thing or another, I mean, you know, slip on some stairs at the place and have to withdraw, or just have a bad round, but not a bad tournament necessarily. Well, now that he's got the 2020 Masters green jacket and in his possession, I just think that a relaxed DJ could be a very dangerous DJ on that course. If not this year, for the next several, I think he's definitely in play as one of the favorites.
I'm anxious to see how some of these changes. Of course, I believe, Darren, I think we did the math a couple of weeks ago, maybe 35 or 40 yards longer than it's been, but with some other changes. You know, the 18th has a change. I think the 11th has a change.
Yeah.
And that's a big one. So there's going to be a couple of things that could bring a couple of things in play that could ultimately decide the tournament. But a lot to get to. I cannot wait. By the way, Tiger's out there now. He's on the main putting green right now, kind of pitching it around. So we'll see what happens. All right, Gene, Dawn Staley, South Carolina. They win the national championship last night, and they've done it now for the second time since 2017. UConn has not won one since 2016. Summarize this era of Gamecock women's basketball.
Well, first of all, last night was one of the best jobs in a national championship stage in any sport I've seen of landing the plane. I mean, they built for this as far as just bringing on that ridiculously tough schedule on top of an already really tough SEC schedule. And then they get there, and yeah, UConn's got some issues. Fudd's sick, and they had an injury last week. But the knockout punch right away, just flooring not only UConn's players, but you could just tell in the interview after the first quarter how befuddled Gino Ariema was about what to do with not just Aaliyah Boston, but Destiny Henderson and the rest of the Gamecocks, to come out with that ridiculous vice grip of rebounding and defense was an amazing, sweet, wonderful thing to watch if you're a Gamecock fan, or if you just like any sort of basketball, because that was just putting the hammer down on the big stage.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we mentioned it. Darren and I mentioned it at the top of the program. I mean, it wasn't close. You knew from the opening tip who the best team was, not in the game, in the country. And then that takes you back to before the season started. We knew who the best team was in the country, and they were. Wire to wire this year, Gene. Wire to wire. They never slipped from number one. And I asked this question earlier to Mike Uva, who was on with us, and I asked Darren, I'm going to ask you, is this a dynasty?
Hard to say. The thing is, you're talking about comparing it to Gino Ariema having won 11 national titles. That was his 14th consecutive Final Four. As weird as it is to say, and I know there's a bunch of asterisks involved here, but when the Gamecocks won their game on Friday night, that was their first Final Four victory since 2017 in 5 years. That's just weird to say. And if you're talking about a dynasty and say that's your first Final Four victory in 5 years, I know there was the COVID year, but that's not a dynasty. It just isn't. Sorry. Now, if this Aaliyah Boston team wins a national championship next year with the same core group, that team will have 2 national titles, 1 national semifinal loss, therefore 3 Final Fours, and the 2020 COVID season in which they were number one. That is pretty good, but to have a real dynasty, it's going to have to go a little bit longer.
I think you're right. I do. I agree with all of you today. I know that there's a lot of Gamecock fans that want to hear, well, this is a dynasty. I totally agree. I don't think it is yet. I think it is the Gamecock era. I will point out the last two national championships that have been played have been decided by 1 point. Last year, Stanford beat Arizona by 1. And in 2019, because 20 was canceled, Gene Baylor beat Notre Dame by 1. South Carolina's two national championship wins have been completed by a total score of 27 points, a total difference of 27 points. That is very UConn-esque. Generally, when UConn, they were 11-0, as you pointed out, in national championship games. When they get there, they beat the crap out of you. But last night, they got a taste of their own medicine.
Absolutely. And this argument is not over, because you talk about whether or not this is a dynasty. I think there is no doubt that this is the best rivalry in women's basketball, and it's going to go on next year. And I expect these same two teams to be in the championship game in Dallas. UConn might be the favorite next year because Buckers, Fudd, and Aaliyah Edwards are all back. If I was going to, draft players in some sort of women's basketball fantasy league for the 2023 season, those three would be in my top 5, along with Boston, and I guess maybe Caitlin Clark, the girl from Iowa, who's so good. But it's going to be an amazing. I'm already looking forward to next season. As much as I say that, though, let's have the parade in Columbia.
Yeah,
the Gamecocks should celebrate this and the banner and everything, because this championship was 3 years in the making, and I just hope they enjoy it as much or more than most teams soak up the glory and smell the roses.
So, like, there are, some of those conversations are being had now, Gene. When you pull up to Colonial Life Arena, you know who that young lady is that's standing outside of the gym. Her name's Asia Wilson. They built a statue of her. Aaliyah Boston has her same resume, if not actually, she's actually achieved more from a personal standpoint and from a statistics angle, what she's accomplished in the tournament and things of that nature. Should there be a statue of Aaliyah Boston? Should the court be named after Dawn Staley? She's won 2 national championships. I mean, these are things that are starting to pop up now. Should they?
Yes and yes. No doubt about it. I mean, I just think that would be a great thing. I mean, the Pat Summitt Court at Tennessee is a cool thing to see, even in a men's game. Dawn Staley's more than earned that, and Aaliyah Boston absolutely is statue worthy.
So,
and by the way, I mean, I think all Gamecock fans have heard Aaliyah talk a lot. This basketball team and the program always, or at least for the last several years in the Dawn Staley years, these players are so well-spoken, do so much stuff off the court, and are really interesting, funny, wonderful young women.
Oh, you could see that last night when Holly Rowe called her Aaliyah Edwards, and there was a fun little back and forth. It shows how calm Boston is and others on the team, but in that instance, Boston, on a huge stage when something unexpected happens, to kind of roll with it and laugh.
Absolutely. And talking about the tears from last year, Darren, and then even addressing Holly as Holly. I mean, she's just so comfortable on the big stage. I mean, she's so cool. And I think that just goes with Dawn getting these players to buy into embracing the pressure that came with tremendous expectations, not just this year, but for 3 years. And they executed.
Where would you place Dawn Staley, not in women's basketball, in basketball, everything she's ever done, everything she's ever accomplished? Where is she in the sport as I don't know how you describe the greats or those who have been the most innovative, that changed the sport the most? I don't know. How would you summarize her role in the game of basketball?
I think she's got to be right up there at the top. Gino's not a player. Pat Summitt's not a great player. And Dawn Staley's playing career was ridiculous. She was so good at Virginia, so good in the WNBA, 3 Olympic gold medals as a player, I think.
Yep.
But here's the thing. I mean, she's coaching at Temple and doing good and taking them regularly to the NCAA tournament while still playing in the summers in the WNBA. I mean, she's just such a dynamic figure on and off the court as a player, as a coach, that, yeah, I mean, as a complete basketball person, player, coach, ambassador, and social justice crusader, I don't think there's anybody that's been more impactful.
Impact. That dang word. That's right. You know what, Gene? I don't even know. I think you said it great, but I'm not sure that we'll know the impact of Dawn Staley for another 20 or 30 years, honestly. I mean, think about the impact that Michael Jordan is still making.
Yeah, that's a good point. And she said in interviews, and I was in on some of this on Saturday on Zoom, that, she wants to be regarded as kind of a generational person that doesn't just change the lives of her players, but, their kids and people beyond these generations. But then also, maybe she is going to be the first woman to coach a men's college basketball team or a National Basketball Association team or something. I don't think she's done, making some huge moves and changes and that word impact.
I agree. I feel like we talked about this before too. I mean, if this is going to become a dynasty, how long is it realistic that Staley's actually around? Because in my eyes, kind of like what you just said, I feel like there's, in her mind, something bigger, in your words, more impactful out there. And it's just a matter in her mind when it's time to make that call, because she can make whatever call she wants at this point, right?
That's really perceptive of you, Darren, because first of all, I've thought the same thing. And the thing is, we've seen Dawn's sort of social awareness grow before our eyes to where, frankly, she wasn't all that interested in it at one point. Then she kind of got like, hey, I'll quietly do some things behind the scenes here to, no, I'm going to speak out to, hey, you know what? I'm a national leader in these areas. And you just wonder, as that sort of focus grows, what her career arc, how that would go with it.
That's it. Yeah. We don't know. We don't know what the future holds for Dawn. It's been unbelievable. Gene, a lot of the ins and outs of being an athletics director. Hires and fires are generally what you're graded on. But I don't know that a lot of people out there talk about retainments. And Coach Tanner, regardless of whether anybody wants to give him credit or not, I know he's a hot topic these days. Coach Taylor has had her opportunities, and Coach Tanner has kept her in Columbia. How much credit does he deserve for that?
He does. I mean, that's a really good point, and you're right. That's an underrated aspect of athletic director evaluation. There's been opportunities for her to go to various places, either for sentiment or for big money, and he's done the right thing in keeping her happy. And we'll see how it goes in the future, but I can't really see her coaching anywhere else in college basketball.
No, I'm with you. I totally agree, Gene. I don't think that she would move on in college basketball outside of this program. But yeah, look, there's the red and the black when you look at numbers, and generally women's basketball programs are on the wrong side of that. But when you got one like Dawn Staley, you got to do what you got to do. And Coach Tanner has done that. He's kept her here, and she's pretty happy, seemingly. And now all the Gamecocks are, because they won again, and now they got to replace the fountain because all the kids were jumping in it last night, Gene. It was a historical weekend of basketball in general. We just discussed all the women's stuff, and then Duke and North Carolina played in the Final Four, and North Carolina ended Coach K's career. I mean, how do you explain that?
It's hard to explain, except that I'll tell you what, Hubert Davis has done an outstanding job, and so is his underrated staff, of developing this team, because the group of Tar Heels that showed up very early in the season down on Meeting Street to play the College of Charleston just is not this team.
Yep.
And even halfway through the season, when they lost to Pittsburgh, they were on the bubble at best. But they've just gradually improved, found their roles. I mean, I think you look at that as a personification in Manic. I mean, that guy was somewhat productive early in the season and now is just a steady force. Baycott obviously is really good. Love with the huge clutch shots against Duke. And it's been a really cool thing to see. And a lot of people weren't sure Hubert Davis was the right idea to replace Roy Williams. I think they're feeling pretty good about that right now.
They should be.
I think so. I mean, nothing is going to quote unquote tarnish the legacy of Mike Krzyzewski or anything like that. But he did lose the final home game to North Carolina, and he did lose his final game in the Final Four against North Carolina. Gene, how will his career be remembered? He's got 5 national championships. One of the greatest coaches ever in the history of sports, not basketball, ever, anything. But that's how it ended for him. North Carolina in the Final Four.
Yeah, well, one thing is what happens tonight in this Kansas-North Carolina game might have a little bit of sway on that. Like if North Carolina wins the national championship by going through Duke, that's one thing. If the tagline is, yeah, they beat Duke and then they blew it against Kansas, that's another thing. And by the way, that Duke-North Carolina game was one of the greatest games in Final Four history. The greatest game in Final Four history ever, though, was probably the first North Carolina-Kansas game in which the winning coach is a former Gamecock head coach, Frank McGuire. So there's a lot of interesting twists and turns there. But as far as Coach K's ultimate legacy, as you said, Jamie, 5 national titles. During the time he was at Duke, the Tar Heels also won 5 national titles, parentheses, so far, because obviously they could win a 6th tonight. But that's 2 for Dean Smith and 3 for Roy Williams. I think Coach K stands up pretty good in that comparison, going up against Dean Smith, Roy Williams. And obviously when he stepped in at Duke, things weren't going as good as they were at North Carolina at the same time. He's had to deal with the likes of, Michael Jordan, along with all the other great Tar Heel stars. So I think it's a really interesting thing whether or not North Carolina wins this championship tonight. Because like I said, right now the score of national championships during Coach K's tenure is Duke 5, North Carolina 5, with this one tonight upcoming.
So who wins tonight?
Oh, I like Kansas.
Yeah, I do too.
I just think Kansas has been playing as steady and as well throughout the tournament as you could ask for. I think it's a good team, a deep team, and a well-coached team. And I'd be surprised if the Tar Heels can pull it off. But they've just been playing better and better and better. So if they finally peak in New Orleans at Superdome, that would be pretty cool for Tar Heel Blue.
They've never lost in the Final Four in New Orleans. They're 5-0.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's outstanding. If they win tonight, Gene, they will have defeated 2 number 1s in this NCAA tournament. They also will have defeated UCLA, Duke, and Kansas in the same tournament. I'm not sure if that's ever happened before, but I hope there's a statistician or a historian out there that will dig it up for me, because that would be unbelievable.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it hasn't happened. And also, just for an 8 seed that didn't win the ACC regular season championship, didn't win the
tournament
championship in the ACC tournament, and again, they were on the bubble at midseason.
Yeah.
What a coaching job! What a tribute to the players and the depth on that team too.
No doubt. Is he the national coach of the year, Hubert Davis?
This second, he's got to be. I don't know if those votes are done before the postseason starts, but I mean, to me, there's just no doubt about it.
I agree. I mean, Darren made a good point. Hey, look, the Big 12 might have been the best league this year. Bill Self coaching Kansas, doing what they've done. If they win it all tonight, he's got a great argument to be the national coach of the year. I get it. But Hubert Davis, they weren't even on the radar. People were questioning why they even hired the guy about 30 days ago, and here we are. 40 minutes shy of a national championship. Wow. All right, Gene. So I guess we're expecting a column this week on pimento cheese and egg salad sandwiches.
that'll probably be slipped in there somewhere, but mostly just a lot of stuff from the Masters. Got David Cloninger following up still on that Gamecock Women's National Championship, plus some Gamecock football. Yep. And John Blau talking about what Clemson plans to do with name, image, and likeness, and kind of trying to get ahead of the curve in that, as all schools are scrambling to keep up with the Texas A&Ms of the world.
Yeah. You know, what a time, Gene. We mentioned all the wonderful stuff going on this week. Everybody forgot about the spring games. Can't wait to watch the spring games instead of the Masters on Saturday. I'm just kidding. Hey, if I could slip in anybody's shoes, they'd be yours. Enjoy Augusta this week. You might be watching Tiger Woods play golf in about 72 hours, Gene. That's incredible.
That's cool. And Jamie, for you, I will have a panino cheese sandwich and a peach ice cream sandwich. And
man. Now I'm going to go make one myself. It won't be as good as that, but I'm glad you said it. Thank you, Gene. We've kept you a long time today, but as always, excellent work. There's a reason why you've won that Sports Writer of the Year award 8 times. It should be 18. You're fantastic. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys.
See you, man.
There you go. Gene Sapkov with the Post and Courier. Out of here. That's it. That's all she wrote. Shout out to all of our Jeep owners. If you listen to our program and you drive a Jeep and it's got 4-wheel drive, it's National Jeep 4x4 Day.
Best car on the planet is a Jeep Wrangler.
Okay.
I've had 2 of them. There will be a third at some point. There's nothing better. Nothing.
We should have given Gene a hug. It's National News Person Day, Darren. I guess maybe that's more for TV. And then this one for you. You're a big cooker. Today is National Chicken Cordon Bleu Day.
Oh, not a big cordon bleu guy, but big chicken guy. Big chicken guy.
I like good cordon bleu. The ham's got to be good. Like, can't overcook the ham.
Yeah.
Gets a little rubbery.
A little strange for me.
All right. We're out of here. See you tomorrow on the JB and Goldwater Show.